Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. Militiaman and Crew here. We have some phenomenal data I think that we're going to go over tonight. I think it's going to be, again, I think it's a phenomenal amount of information that is, hopefully it all lays out the way I present it. Because it is kind of complex, because everything that we're seeing is a collective, it's a work in progress, and it's really kind of a collective of so much data that it's hard at times to be able to pull this off. But I have to thank Militiaman and Crew, all the members. Samson brings us the data into Patreon on a regular basis in a phenomenal manner, which also is fed into our Discord chat room every single day, and so check it out and see if you guys enjoy that. But some of the data that I've collected, some of the stuff I put on the Patreon and the forum with my analysis, is where we are today with the news. So hope everybody checks it out. It's a lot of work, but it's actually kind of fun because we're actually a part of a community that is hey, a community. We all get along. We all want to learn. We all want to have the best information that we could possibly glean. So that's what we do with Militiaman and Crew. So hopefully I'll share some of this with you and you'll understand it. But hey, the Buna platform is owned by the Arab Monetary Fund. And if you guys go back in history, you realize that the Arab Monetary Fund has been part of Iraq's history. It dates back a very long time. Just as the WTO with Iraq and other countries in the region and in the world date back a very long time. Okay, so some of the things that we're going to be talking about have to deal with, well, for instance, the Buna platform. It's an electronic platform that they've been upgrading for the last few years. They have the I think it's called the IPC. They have this particular new service that is called the PVP. And does it have anything to do with Iraq? Of course it does. Iraq is going to be a leader or take her proper seat in the future where she was many years ago. And that is with the AMF in the region. And this payment platform that they're calling the Buna platform, not the Bani, but the Buna, is a system that's operated by a regional corporation in clearing and settlement of Arab payments. It's owned by the Arab Monetary Fund, like I had mentioned, and this new payment service for foreign exchange in cooperation with the Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank and the Jordan National Bank. They're going to be all in cooperation, right? These are the first users of this mechanism that provides secure settlement of foreign currencies, right? The FX, foreign exchange. Okay, so Iraq is about ready to probably be involved with this, and this is why they're talking about it. If you go back a little bit in time, you go into our forum, into Patreon, you're going to find that some of the things that we talked about is that they've already done some clearing. Iraq with payments have done clearing with these platforms, whether it's the SWIFT system, which we know that they have done, or the Buna platform, which they have done, or it's at the borders. They've tested them. In my opinion, they've tested all of these systems and are ready to try to, I guess, showcase that. So ultimately, at this stage of the game, on this particular day, which was a day or so ago, I think it was on the 7th. No, actually, it could have been the 6th. But regardless, it states that the Buna platform's PVP mechanism ensures that settlement in one currency is carried out simultaneously with the corresponding mechanism for conducting foreign exchange transaction settlement in line with the basic recommendations of the G20 to enhance cross-border payments at borders. Okay, so that's basically stating that the G20, they're the largest government agencies, they're G20, not G7, but G20, so that's quite a few. And what currencies are they going to be using? Well, they're going to be talking about the Buna platform or any other intermediary country will have transactions. The platform will provide services in at least 6 currencies that are available now on this platform, which are the UAE dirham, which is the AED, the Egyptian pound, which is the EGP, the Saudi Riyal, which is the SAR, the Jordanian dinar, the JOD, the US dollar, of course, the USD, and the euro, the EUR. So here they're talking about the Buna platform is going to be using all these cross-border payments in the region. And we also have seen in articles recently and in my videos, we talked about the fact is that there's going to be other currencies being used, whether they're regional or global. They're going to be used because they're going to be on a similar platforms. And these digital platforms are where they're headed. And they're going to be state of the art. They're going to be state of the future. And so get ready for it. It says here Jordan's at the forefront. I think they are. We're going to find out about some of the banks. We already mentioned the Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, which I find really interesting, is that the Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank is where the WTO had their October 31st, the 1st of November, 2nd of November 2023 WTO meetings. So interesting that they talk about this. So it's going to be fascinating to see if these guys keep moving forward with it, and I think they will. It says here, it says an American official from Herbal passing the oil and gas law as a priority for Washington. So why does this fit in? It's because there's a lot of things that are going on. I told you, it's not just a few things. It's a lot of things that are collective, and they'll all come into one. It's almost like a big, huge spider web, and where that the web closes into a pinpoint. Okay, or if you're thinking of a mountain climber, starts at the bottom of the base of this big, huge mountain, big circle, climbing up it, you finally get to the top, right? And I think that's where we're headed, is to the top. Okay, so it says the new U.S. consul in Erbil, Max Straw, confirmed on Tuesday that they were addressing the revenue problem, passing the oil and gas law between Washington's priorities and agendas in Kurdistan. Okay, so Iraq, Kurdistan region, Baghdad, they've been working on oil and gas law. They've been working on salaries. They've been working on all kinds of things as we've been coming forward. And we're going to see how things tie in as we go, I think. Okay. The Ministry of Natural Resources, just to stop there, not to get too long-winded, they've actually gone from the oil and gas law to the oil, gas, and natural resources law, is my understanding of it. But think about it. We talked about some of the natural resources that they have, where they got 10,000 million tons of phosphate, or 10,500 million tons. It's just an astronomical amount of product that these guys are getting ready to produce. All at a time. They tell you these stories when they're going through the WTO this last few days, and are subsequently still in process of doing. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, possibly even on Friday in Geneva. So those are things that you guys can all look up. Look up WTO, look up at Iraq, do your search, look at dates. You're going to see things. Keep in mind, there's acronyms. Specifically, there's acronyms. There's like an alphabet of them. It's alphabet soup. But do your research. You should know what you own. And you should be able to follow this without me having to give it to you, because it's just so much information. I can't give it all to you guys here tonight. It's just not going to happen. But it is good stuff. It's fascinating. But back up, all the stuff that I'm talking about, you can find in Patreon with Militia Man and Crew, and their Discord, that vibrant chat room where there's so many people on a daily basis. So come join us. It says the Ministry of Electricity and Natural Resources thanked the United States of America for its role in helping resume oil exports to Kurdistan region, following upon solving the oil and gas problems and expanding investment and approving the federal oil and gas law with the Kurdistan region. So the focus is basically is to get the investment into Iraq. Approving the federal oil and gas law is in everybody's interest. It's the United States, but it's not just us. It's everybody. It's going to be a fascinating time frame, and I think that they've become to say that they are going to be addressing the revenue problems, passing the oil and gas law, and ultimately, what is it? It's a priority, and it's an agenda that they're working on. So ultimately, this article here, an American official from Erbil, passing the oil and gas law is a priority for Washington. Basically, as I see it, it's like it's almost like past tense. Okay, there have been recent meetings. The U.S. Secretary of State, along with Al-Sudani, they've met, and then ultimately, within hours, it looks like, Al-Sudani met with the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. So all of these things have relationships, and they're in the process of bringing it together. And so the next article, which is fascinating too, is the White House will make a decision regarding Iraq's funds in the federal bank. So we all know the Federal Reserve Bank has a protection on Iraq's reserves. And we're not going to get into it, but I think you guys all should know by now that there is a reason that dates back to 2003, 2006, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things that we're seeing right now have correlation and are being modified or being adjusted to get to a specific place that we want to be. And that is for Iraq to, in the end of the day, become a sovereign country with an internationally acceptable Article 8 IMF obligatory and compliant currency exchange rate. That's the goal. And Iraq knows that, the WTO knows that, the 2023, 24, 25 budget that was designed for this as an investment budget. The Development Road Project is part of it. To build the country, they're going to have to do infrastructure. They're going to move that from the port of Fa all the way out into different countries and different ports. And I think if you pay attention closely, you're going to find some interesting information that will be eye-opening if you pay close attention. So I'm not going to get into all the eye-opening things, but I'll just say that if you own this currency and are an investor and you don't know what you own, it's time to pay attention, people. It really is, because this is all coming to fruition. All the things I've been talking about, at least for the last year, are in focus. So it's kind of a beautiful time frame to be a so-called Dinarian, someone who pays attention to the news and gives my views on it. I can see it. I think, lots of people that agree and can see it too. It's really just fascinating, good stuff. In this particular article, it says the Prime Minister's Advisor of Financial Affairs, Mohammed Saleh, we all know who he is. He's been around for years. He's talking about the White House will renew the federal bank's authorization to deposit Iraq's funds from oil exports next March, despite the fact that Iraq's balances in the Federal Reserve Bank have been frozen. Look, they have a reason for them to be frozen, and that goes back to the Paris Club. They have protections. And so some of the things that you read in the news coming out of Iraq, it's very difficult to pay attention to. So understand, though, that Federal Reserve Bank account, those reserves, are in effect a protection for Iraq for having people to come back and sue them for what happened during the Gulf War, for instance. And so the Federal Reserve is painted as the bad picture, as the bad guy, but ultimately what they're trying to do is to level the playing field. And good nor bad, but in my view is that if they're going to level the playing field, you're going to see that's why they're going to start using other people's currencies. We've talked about this for like 3 or 4 years, 3 years at least. That's part of the whole process, is for everybody to use their own currencies in a manner that's a level playing field. And so we're seeing the evidence of that. It says here's the reserves vary according to international standard investments. That's that's Iraq's reserves, and they're issued by the International Monetary Fund. So the International Monetary Fund is invoked in this, between various currencies such as the euro. We talked about that. Gold, the pound sterling, the Chinese yuan, the Japanese yen, in addition to the US dollar, amongst others. So when they talk about trading with the Iraqi dinar, you're talking about with these different currencies. So obviously they're not doing that now. They didn't do that for the last 10, 20 years, but now they're going to be doing it. So are they going to do something different? Of course they are, because they need to be on a level playing field. And so all these new systems, the electronic systems, the Buna platform, the SWIFT system, the ISO 20022, they all have a relationship, and it's all intertwined with the borders, taxes and tariffs, even the electricity contracts from around the world, trucking, everything has been coming in. You have a cession from the international trucking situation out of the EU. You have the World Trade Organization. What are they going to do? They're going to do all the business with all the borders. Everybody's going to be interconnected. Everybody's going to have to be on the same page, connection-wise. So they're going to have to do all these things, and that's what we're talking about tonight. Okay? It says these currencies are different in proportions. Of course they are. They're all weighted differently. It says the foreign currencies in Iraq's foreign trade. Well, Iraq has foreign currencies in their balance sheet, okay? There's no objection to intensifying diversification into other currencies, in addition to the dollar, which essentially represents the currency of oil revenues. Well, of course, that's the dollar. What is the dollar? The dollar represents the largest trade environment in the world. I think it's 70% of all volume of trade is in the dollar. So is it going to be a weak currency? Well, some people think so. At the moment, at 70% of all trade in the world, it hasn't changed. Did BRICS change that fact yet? No, not yet. It hasn't. But we'll just let that be a sidebar. It says the oil receipts account, the reserve account in dollars are still subject to protection, like I just told you. It says like their oil reserves accounts, their reserves, dollar reserves, petrodollar effectively, are protected, and they're openly talking about it on a regular basis. Okay, it says according to the White House in a presidential order, which is renewed annually every year in the month of May. So this last May, May 23rd, or May 2023, they did it again. So Iraq's reserves are protected. So are we going anywhere? No. Are they? I don't think so. It says most of the issue relates to the aforementioned UN Security Council resolution regarding the oil receipts account opened in dollars at the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, so basically America has worked to destroy the Iraqi currency by imposing sanctions. It's like, well, no, that's not the way it is. But you got to remember, all these articles that are written are, again, not necessarily in our best light. Okay, but the fact remains is Iraq's currency is protected, and it's going to be that way for some time. And so we're going to move on to another bit of fascinating stuff, which is the Parliamentary Finance calls for an emergency session. So why did the Parliamentary Finance call for an emergency session regarding the rise in the dollar and warning strongly of its repercussions? Well, there's going to be a reason for it, and the bottom line will come is that the Parliamentary Finance Committee called on the leaders of the political blocs to hold an emergency session of the House of Representatives regarding the rise in the price of the dollar against the dinar. Okay, so basically the parallel market, we've been talking about this, it's getting old, it's getting boring, I get it, but the bottom line is the parallel market is an illegal market. It's called the black market, right? And there's influential people There's mafias, there's potentially tribal people, different sorts, okay? They have a massive amount of income that comes from manipulating the dollar price. And they do not necessarily want the electronic platforms. They don't want to do business outside of the cash side of things. And so they're going to keep doing what they do until they just can't do it anymore. And what we're going to find is that the central bank, if you guys have been paying attention, they're actually talking about mechanisms or things that they can do, tools that they can use to be able to get the parallel market to go away. And I think they've been pretty much telling everybody that they can and will effectively exchange or make an exchange rate change that can fix all this. And I think we're going to circle back to Jamal Cougar. Yeah, he'll be saying things like, well, let's get to the article. It says parliamentary finance calls for an emergency session. We went over that, right? So they call for the emergency session. Jamal Cougar is a gentleman that has, look, history shows that we can read some of these politicians accordingly. They come from different factions, different, political sides, da-da-da-da-da. But Jamal's been kind of famous in the sense that he goes for what's in his best interests and his constituents or in his light, okay? He basically, he's a committee member, Parliamentary Finance Committee member, said in a press statement, there are many reasons for the rise in the dollar, including the failure to spend the budget. Okay, so that bit right there, they haven't opened the 2023, 24, 25 budget. There's so many different budgets, you guys, you have to realize that there's even laws from 2019 that are still in play. So bear with me. I can't memorize everything, but I do the best that I can. It says a failure to spend the budget in a required manner so that it's not exploited by the parties participating in the elections. Okay, so they haven't spent any money in the budget, but they don't want to so-called, quote unquote, spend any money because of the parties participating in the elections. Well, there's other things that are going on that I may or may not get into, but that is, I think, is a misnomer. It says, though, noting that there is a will that wants to thwart the SWIFT system on the part of the influential parties. So what do we talk about? People that didn't want the parallel market to go away. Influential parties. Okay? We're talking about others. Who are we talking about? Mafia's control. They don't want the dollar to go away because they're making a killing. They make billions off this dollar situation. Well, that's going away. They've been notified. It's going to go away. And the process of implementing the mechanisms are 100%, in my view, underway. It goes on and says, the solution lies in dispersing the budget. The 2023, 2024, 25 budget it's an investment budget. They haven't dispersed the money yet. So what do they need to do that? What does the HCL need to vote on? Okay, what do the salaries need to supply the money for them to get those things, right? What is it? It's an exchange rate. That's why they haven't done it yet. I'm just giving you a couple bits of it, in my opinion, okay? It says that the solution lies in dispersing the budget, providing very many facilities to investors, simplifying government procedures to obtain the dollar, in addition to striking mafias and limiting their influence and control over banks. So it's fighting after corruption. So what they don't want is there's people or entities, factions, political side, mafia side, influential side. They do not want the electronic platform to proceed because they'll be exposed. And that's where they're fighting from. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it, but that's what they're doing. And I'm going to give you approach after approach after approach that's going to show that that's what they're doing. And they just mentioned it here. It wasn't me, it was Jamal Cougar. He's the guy, he's the politician. He's going to tell you that there's consequences for all of these things. And what's the better thing is for the people to get through it and to have, to get off it. And I'll go on. It says, parliamentary finance member called for holding an emergency session. Well, why is Jamal Cougar calling for holding an emergency session? Realized a few days ago we talked about an emergency session was possible, but the bottom line is that you can't vote on the hydrocarbon law for the citizens without evaluation. You have to have value, just like the World Trade Organization. You need to have a value for a session. That's my view. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying this is where we're at. But I think it's falling into place. It's really looking kind of cool. But the emergency session in presence of leaders of the political blocs and specialists, informing them of the dangers of not implementing the SWIFT. The SWIFT system is the new SWIFT system. But everybody, wait, hold on. You said, oh, it's already been implemented. Well, sure, it has. It's been tested. It's been used. But has it been implemented? Keep that in mind. Has it been implemented? And it hasn't been implemented with the dinar, Iraq's dinar. At 1310, they haven't done it yet. They might have tested it, sure. But are they openly trading globally around the world right now with 1310? No, they're not. I don't care if you have Forex sites that are giving quotes and all that kind of stuff. They're not doing that. It's just not working that way. You got to realize that when it happens, it's going to be a level playing field. And Iraq's going to have a real effective exchange rate, not just a nominal effective exchange rate. In the end, they're going to have a real effective exchange rate. And the WTO is going to know about it. So is the UN. So is the United States Treasury. Okay? The Bank of International Settlements. Everybody's going to be paying attention to the amount of money that's going to come out of this country. They didn't just value all those or tell you all the tonnage of all the materials that they have in ground. They just told you their natural resource wealth is just phenomenal. They're telling you all these things. They're telling you that their taxes and tariffs at the borders, electronic, have been activated 2 weeks ago, or I think it was on the 22nd of last month. But all of those things, all the tourism, all of that, you got to think about this. What do you really know about what you own? So pay attention to that. I think it's fascinating, everybody. It goes on to say that the political blocs and specialists informing them of the dangers of not implementing the SWIFT system and its repercussions on the political, economic, and even security and social dimensions. So Jamal Cougar, who's like back and forth all over the place, is basically suggesting that if you don't implement your exchange rate, if you don't do it, you'll have repercussions politically, economically, even the security situation and social dimensions in the country. Those are powerful words. Those are his words. The article's called Parliamentary Finance Calls for an Emergency Session Regarding the Rise in Dollar and warns strongly of its repercussions. Okay? Seriously. There's a reason for everything that I'm talking about. It's powerful, it's fascinating, and it's gonna. I think it's gonna be really kind of cool to watch this unfold. And I pray and hope that I'm right. It says an economic expert resolves the controversy: dollar prices will not fall without this thing. An economist. His name is Hamed Saddam, confirmed on Wednesday that the dollar price will not fall without an agreement between the Central Bank of Iraq and the U.S. Federal Reserve on repaying foreign debts. Basically, what I think they're saying here is that the parallel market is going to be a thing in the past, and I think that it's 100% true. Those that are still holding out of the SWIFT system, okay, the electronic system, they don't want to be in the electronic system. Why? Because they're exposed. They're exposed for the fraud, the corruption, all of those things. Everybody that's going to be, if they haven't done it yet, and they're not going to go into it yet, well, obviously there's going to be a change. The system just will not allow the parallel market to exist much longer, as far as I can see it. If I'm wrong, well, let's see what happens. It says that there was 3 negative controls through the central bank's electronic platform for selling the dollar. It's urgent. They go on to say the follow-up and regulatory administrative procedures will contribute to creating high flexibility in overcoming any gaps. So what they're giving kudos to is that the new system is going to have administrative procedures that will contribute to creating high flexibility in overcoming any gaps when it comes to the parallel market. There are attempts to contain the file of corruption and smuggling through the platform, and it should not be exaggerated. Rather, attention should be paid to the presence of the side practices that lead to obstructing travelers from obtaining dollars, and so forth and so forth. They're basically suggesting that it's just going to turn out in the end, by doing this electronic platform, there'll be more transparency, there'll be negative cases, there'll be less cases of corruption, which includes smuggling, indirectly. So that's what they're saying. This expert seems to know that there are tools to contain the parallel market that are underway. Overcoming these gaps are in progress. The more they contain the corruption and the faster they do it, the parallel market will be a thing of the past. There's the latter part was my view on it. But here again, we go into the regional component. A regional component of the government calls on Baghdad to fund the salaries of the Kurdistan's employees for the last 3 months of the year. Now, why in the world would they be wanting to finance at the last 3 months of the year salaries? Kurdistan doesn't have any money, right? Why are they borrowing money to borrow money to borrow money to pay for salaries? No, they're pushing for, I think, it's time for Baghdad and the region to come to an agreement that they are about ready to make it official. Kurdistan regional government called on the federal government to finance the salaries of employees and workers in the public sector for the last 3 months of the year in 2023. Who was it? It was the Regional Council of Ministers. They sent 2 official letters to the federal government, in the first which asked the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers to finance the salaries of the remaining 3 months from this year, to distribute it on time and to guarantee the rights of those who receive it, expressing their hope and a decision will be made to the Council of Ministers in the regard during the upcoming sessions. Well, are those sessions still in play, or did they all go home? I think some of them went home. Regarding the budget and the region's share, about 15 days ago, 2 weeks ago, I think this was yesterday, they sent a letter to the Prime Minister, Shia al-Sudani, in which they expressed our opinion on how to amend the budget law and isolate salaries from other items, as well as how to address the issue of oil and gas. Salaries, oil and gas, what do they need? Salaries need an exchange rate. Oil and gas need an exchange rate. 2023, 2024, 25 budget need an exchange rate. All the contracts for housing, all that they're talking about, we're going to need an adjustment in the exchange rate to be able to finish those things. Okay, all of this. My view is we will have to see what al-Sudani has in mind in the financing of these last 3 months. I'm not so sure he's going to do that. The issue of the oil and gas law, it's fairly cut and dry. These guys have it on the table. They've talked about it numerous times. And so when it really comes right down to it, what are they looking for? They're looking for the exchange rate to be able to value the ability to pay the citizens. That's how I see it. Government is reviewing the latest offers from international companies to implement the projects of Al-Fa port. Okay, so you're going to do international major projects. Development Road project needs the HCL similarity. Development Road project needs an exchange rate for the investment from the 23, 24, 25 budget. All of it's tied in together. It hasn't all happened yet, has it, everybody? It hasn't. Why? Because it's obvious now. We're watching them focus in on that pinpoint. What is it? There's only one item I think is left to do. It says here the Shia Muhammad al-Sudani chaired the 5th meeting of the Supreme Committee for the Implementation of the Development Road Project and the Grand Al-Fa Port. Look, China's Silk Road, Development Road, all of it's going to be interconnected. It's going to be about infrastructure, it's about industry, it's going to be about commercialization, it's going to be about residential, it's going to be about so many things. It's going to be fascinating to watch this unfold. You have to understand that this isn't just like pull the button, pull the pin. It's about complexities. Look, the WTO needs money. They're going to need to know how much to procure, what the value is of all these things. And they're already doing that. We could see stuff on that tomorrow. If you looked at the October 31st, the 1st and 2nd, go to their website. They're going to show you specific things that they talked about. There's continuations of those things. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, and possibly onto the 10th. Could be more. We'll find out. Nothing's cut in stone. It's all about progress. Basically, it says here, the meeting witnessed the hosting of the Italian consultant who represented the economic feasibility study for the 3 projects, which include the Al-Fa port and the project and the docks, attached yards, associated railway projects, and land road project as its details. Okay, so think about the money that's going to be spent on that. They're not going to be able to afford to be able to do something like that at 1,310 to the dollar. It's not going to happen. Coming to conclusion here shortly, it is the Central Bank of Iraq decided on Wednesday to allow Iraqi banks to import foreign currency according to 5 conditions. Now, why in the world would they do that? They're getting ready to do it because they're going to be able to do trade in the future. Yeah, trade. They're going to be able to do so much trade. It's not even funny. Based on the requests received to the bank, in order to provide the required flexibility for banks operating in Iraq, it's decided to allow to import foreign currency from outside Iraq while adhering to the following. There's 5 components. They're basically receiving money, incoming remittances from outside Iraq for goods and services, effectively. That's how I see it. That tells us that the central bank is set up. They can't tell you exactly what they're going to be doing, but what they're going to be doing is they're going to be doing business in other foreign currencies, right? Aside from the US dollar, I already went over all the other currencies that were out there. They're available. They're going to be available. And why are they going to be available? Because they're about ready to be international, in my opinion. Central Bank of Iraq confirms its continued provision of foreign currency to meet customer requirements in accordance with the instructions and controls in this regard. So look, once there's an exchange rate change in Iraq, we'll make a move to show that they accepted IMF Article 8 obligations. That's my view on this. They'll not only likely be doing business with other foreign currencies for goods and services, they'll be doing trade with their own currency for the other foreign currencies outside the dollar. I think that's where we're headed, is that these guys are literally getting ready to say that we have everything in place. We're going to be doing this. We've already shown you that we're going to get rid of the parallel market. We told you how we're going to do it. We're going to do it with other currencies. And that's what we're seeing, is that they're getting ready to do that. That's my view. Could this be a way that we're seeing why that Jamal Cougar was talking about an emergency session with respect to the SWIFT system? We're about to find out. It says when Iraq actually shows that they have accepted the obligations of Article 8 compliance with respect to their currencies, their exchange rate, currency exchange rate, and by the action of implementing it in and or onto the ISO 20022 SWIFT system, which they talked about, the emergency session, the parallel market goes away in a moment's notice. I mean, think about it. Just as would the IQD, right? Think about it. Just as would the IQD may begin on the Forex, okay? Or even the Buna platform. It all takes the exchange rate to change to make it all happen. And effectively, it's going to be instantaneously. I mean, because we already see that they talk about these electronic platforms, the Buna platform. Go back and read about it. Go back and see, what does it do? It's doing payments, global cross-border payments in specific currencies. Iraq's one of them. They've tested it. We know that. They just don't talk about specifically the Iraqi dinar. Why? Because they can't just yet. Because it's not available to be done. It's going to be. That's the fascinating part about this whole concept I'm talking about tonight. Look, the Forex, the Buddha platform, the exchange rate, all of it's tied in. The hydrocarbon law will require an economic, an exchange rate, an international one. The 2023, 24, 25 budget to be spending money will require it. The salary and the payments for the citizens will require it. The WTO will require one. The housing contracts, for instance, they're going to require one. The development road projects, economic and financial reforms, all of them are going to require an international, acceptable, Article 8 compliant exchange rate. Fighting corruption is part of this because the new system will require them to have ability to be on the system, know your own customer. All of those things are going to come into play. And if you're not, you're circumventing the law. Okay? They have laws in place that they have no more multi-currency practices. They've already got that in place. They've had it in place. They just haven't acted on it. Eradicating the parallel market is going to be another thing. How is it? They're going to eradicate the parallel market by what? Changing their exchange rate. If the value of the Iraqi dinar is as al-Sudani, Muhammad Shia al-Sudani has stated that the Iraqi dinar is stronger than the dollar, going into election, Mr. al-Sudani, people are going to know that if you don't have it done, you didn't do what you said you were going to do because you said it numerous times. Effectively, all of this requires an Article 8 compliant and accepted internationally exchange rate. And so before we see all this within the region in the center, we're just going to have to wait and see what they show us. And I think that that's exactly where we're at, is that they're going to be doing this. And to be able to close out is that why would China, Japan, South Korea be talking today about Iraq is looking forward to effective levels of economic and investment cooperation among major companies and foreign businessmen? Well, if you don't like America, you don't like Europe, but here we have China, Japan, and South Korea all here. All right, well, let's go. And then what are they going to do? They're going to do business. They're basically looking at rocking and rolling with this. These guys, they're in the money to make hay. Let's water it. Turkey's going to give us give Iraq the water. Let's hope. All this other peripheral stuff I won't get into. We'll put that on the wayside. But the bottom line is they're going to get some water probably from Turkey. They're going to get their fair share. The UN's in there talking about it. And so let's just see how their agricultural process goes, because why? One of the biggest things they're going to need for the WTO's accession is going to be agreements on water. We'll see how that turns out. But we might even find out things like that even as early as the next couple of days. So let's see how it turns out. And lastly, knocking out the corruption, knocking out the mafia's controls, quit thwarting the SWIFT system, and taking Iraq into an international environment with a global currency adjustment is part of this process. And so let's see how it goes, because I'm very pumped and excited. And so thank you very much. And to all of you that have been here with me for a long time, thank you so much for being supportive. You all know how it works. If you like me, you like our crew, tap that like button and subscribe. And if you feel like supporting us to get this extra hard work done, we have those options. You just got to click on each one of those. One of them. Thank you so much. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.